Hi, a little history of the TGA3. In the 1980s, late 1980s, I had started a guitar shop with Jim Kaufman, and we were called Guitar Services. And we were basically, he was fixing guitars and I was fixing amplifiers. But eventually I started modifying amplifiers, basically Marshalls, to give them 2 channels, and I designed a nice boost channel for it, but it was so boosty you really couldn't play rhythm guitar with it, so I decided I'd come up with a design for a foot switch system that you could put in it so that you could actually tame it down enough so you could get a clean sound and push a button and get your solos up. And it started to become really popular. So I discovering people would actually come and buy a Marshall just so I could modify it. So I decided maybe I could make an amplifier and make a little more money in the deal. And also, I always wanted to build an amplifier that I myself would have loved to have had when I was playing more professionally. So I came up with the concept of this. The original version was a TGA2 with 2 channels. Then I decided to go whole hog and go for 3 channels, which back in the 1980s was never done before, to my knowledge. At the same time, Fender decided to move their factory, which meant there was a lot of surplus parts for me to grab and experiment with. And so I was able to have a metal shop that was making my direct box chassis, have them for me a simple squarish box like this thing here, and I would drill it out and eventually put an amplifier inside of it. So anyway, crawling around in the attic of the surplus place, I came across some Fender output transformers and some Fender power transformers. And they were kind of a unique model because they had an ultralinear design. And I said, this is like the hi-fi amps I used to use. So I thought that would be a perfect basis for this amplifier. So I basically used that as the beginning of this thing, a good power amp section, and then I designed the preamps. Basically, this channel is basically my modified Marshall, with the edge channel being the channel that would be kind of an edgy distortion on the guitar, and then this full out solo. And because I always loved a real clean sound that I could never get with a Marshall, this channel here, the yellow channel, is the most pristine, beautiful, clean channel, I think, on the market ever. And so the first few of these came out in like 1988. My first 2 famous guitar players who bought these were Bonnie Raitt and Sonny Landreth. Sonny is still using his amp to this day, and you can hear it in almost all his albums past 1988 and on some of his live shows too. It comes with a foot switch that basically selects between the clean mode and the 2 dirty modes. It's very simple to use. Actually, the colors on the LEDs correspond with the color of the knobs. So when the green light's on, you're on the edge channel, the red lights are on. You're on the lead channel and the yellow lights are on. You're on the clean channel. Both channels have treble, middle, and bass. It has a special effects loop, though, that's kind of different than most effects loops. It has a mono send. It has 2 different sends, one for the dirty and one for the clean, so you can get some control of that. And it goes as a mono send output, but it actually returns in stereo. So if you have a power amplifier, you can get a full stereo sound and control the whole thing by the preamp on this, as well as having a separate level control so you can make the channels balance. I think in the 1980s that was pretty revolutionary. I don't think anyone was really doing a stereo preamp amp at the time. But it made sense back then because that was also the era of the monster racks, when people had all these outboard effects in their big racks. And so that's where that design thing came from. This amp has an all-tube output, all-tube front end. No signal is going through any transistors. It is pure tube sound. It has 70-watt output. It is an ultralinear output, so it's very clear and clean sounding, like a hi-fi amplifier. And so most of your distortion actually comes through the preamp itself, so you can turn this down and still get a great sound. Although Bonnie Raitt did turn the thing up all the way and got even a greater sound. But this thing can certainly get a great recording sound at a lower level if you need it. That's why a lot of the studio guys use this. It has six preamp tubes and 2 output tubes, and although we discontinued making them for a number of years when we were making the TGA2, there's always been an undercurrent demand for this, so about 10 years ago, on a special order basis, we've decided to make these again. My chief technician, Rick, does an amazing job of building these all by hand. They're all hand wired, and give us a call if you'd like to order one. We do this by deposit, and you usually have to wait about 3 months to get one, and it's a classic. You will use it the rest of your life.